Why hello, my fellow apes. I hope you are well. Guided by Athena's wisdom, and if needed her spear, let's casually debunk some nonsense, shall we?
Oh my goodness gracious.
Oh my goodness gracious indeed, Michael. In our last casual adventure, we witnessed Michael Knowles fail to debunk a dead man.
Weak sauce.
Or, more specifically, we saw a short of Christopher delivering 2 objections to miracle claims, and then Michael doing a very poor job of addressing one of the objections and completely ignoring the second.
Weak sauce.
That it is, Michael. That it is. In this episode, we're going to continue where we ended. So let's sit back and watch Michael debunk Christopher. Shall we?
I never said that I attacked bad behavior that was undertaken or embarked upon in the name of, as you put it, religion. I do insist that this kind of bad behavior is innate in religion, is part of religion itself. It's not an abuse of it or something undertaken in the name of. It's a direct consequence of the willingness to believe in the supernatural and the willingness to believe in a supernatural dictatorship in particular. Is it not written that I come not to bring a peace but a sword? Surely it is. Is it not written that those who won't follow me must depart and be cast into everlasting fire? Not a very gentle or pacific remark. Is it not said that if you don't give up your family, if you don't give up thrift, if you don't give up everyone who loves you and everything you love to sacrifice yourself for me, you're not worthy? These are strongly coercive and implicitly authoritarian or even totalitarian statements.
Oh my goodness gracious.
All right. So, before hearing what Michael has to say in response, let's appreciate what Christopher is actually conveying. Likewise to the last clip Michael reviewed, we are not given context, which would no doubt clarify Christopher's points, but we can make a fair inference all the same. Christopher seems to have been accused by either his opposition or a member of the audience of attacking bad behaviour that's carried out in the name of religion, but he's rejecting this. The bad behaviour he was attacking, he insists, is innate to religion, and especially Abrahamic religion.
It's not an abuse of it or something undertaken in the name of. It's a direct consequence of the willingness to believe in the supernatural and the willingness to believe in a supernatural dictatorship in particular.
To reiterate, Christopher is arguing that the nefarious beliefs or practices in question aren't misinterpretations or abuses of religion, but are inherent to religion itself. And as for examples, he gives us 3 that relate to meek and mild Jesus. First, he points to Jesus boasting of bringing a sword as opposed to peace.
Is it not written that I come not to bring a peace but a sword?
Second, he speaks of Jesus casting those who refuse to bow into the eternal flames.
Is it not written that those who won't follow me must depart and be cast into everlasting fire? Not a very gentle or pacific remark.
And third, he speaks of Jesus' narcissistic demand that you give up your family.
Is it not said that if you don't give up your family, if you don't give up thrift, if you don't give up everyone who loves you and everything you love to sacrifice yourself for me, you're not worthy?
All in all, then, it's a pretty simple yet damning statement from Christopher. Now then, let's see how Michael responds.
Oh my goodness gracious. It's funny going back to these now, because I still see how they appeal to a 13-year-old. Because Christopher Hitchens, for all of his British charm, he talks like an edgy 13-year-old online. I mean, this is not sophisticated stuff at all.
So far, we're looking at an ad hominem. Michael goes on to make some points, and we'll get to them, but at the present he's attacking the person making the arguments rather than addressing the substance of the arguments themselves, and I think it's worth briefly commenting on this. When critics of religion go for the jugular, as Christopher often insisted, an unsavoury tactic from theists is to dismiss the critic as immature, uninformed, and what have you.
He talks like an edgy 13-year-old online.
This serves the narrative of atheism being something that's popular among adolescents, when we're just starting to think about the big questions, whereas religion is for actual adults, that is, those that have figured out the big answers. The statistics, of course, don't support this tripe. In fact, to the contrary, the more educated one is, the less likely they are to engorge themselves on cupcakes in heaven. But as we're painfully aware, facts are frivolous to the faithful.
By the end, he's really misparaphrasing the gospel accounts. Christ doesn't tell you that you have to abandon your family in order to follow him, though you should place him and God first in your life, and then everything follows from that.
Oh, really? Let's see who precisely is misparaphrasing Jesus. The verse in question comes from Luke 14:26. Here's the King James Version. If any man come to me and hate not his father and mother and wife and children and brethren and sisters and his own life also, he cannot be my disciple.
He's really misparaphrasing the gospel accounts. Christ doesn't tell you that you have to abandon your family in order to follow him.
Is it not said that if you don't give up your family, if you don't give up thrift, if you don't give up everyone who loves you and everything you love to sacrifice yourself for me, you're not worthy?
Christ doesn't tell you that you have to abandon your family in order to follow him.
Are you sure, Mike? I mean, do you really think that when Jesus said, any man who does not hate his father, mother, wife, children, brothers, sisters, and himself cannot be my disciple, he actually didn't mean this? That he was just being, a little playful? Maybe metaphorical or something? Well, I suppose that since you read the Bible as not to read its explicit endorsements of slavery, it isn't really all that surprising that you'll create Jesus in your own image as well.
And then everything follows from that.
Brilliant. Absolutely well played, Mike. That is, get this man a medal. Well played.
And then he says, Christianity is not a pacifist religion. No, it's not a pacifist religion. That's true. But it's not a call to violence.
Okay, great. We've got some progress. Michael agrees with Christopher. The bad behaviour of religion, or at least some of it, is not a misreading of Scripture, but rather because of Scripture.
It's not an abuse of it or something undertaken in the name of. It's a direct consequence.
But the issue here, of course, is that Michael won't recognise the evils in the Bible as calls to violence, oppression, etc.
Because, per divine command theory, if God sanctions something, it's automatically good. If God sends, for instance, 2 bears to maul to death 42 children for calling another child bold, then this is somehow maximal love.
And thus, it isn't violent.
And he says it's a supernatural dictatorship. And this gets back to something he said in the previous video too. He says, can you imagine how insane it would be that the laws of nature could be suspended in the course of miracles? You say, well, the natural has to be based on a foundation of the supernatural. This is necessary. The fact that we can speak, the fact that we're communicating ideas at all, which I can't touch, I can't smell them, I can't see them, but nevertheless they exist. The fact that mathematics exists, the fact that loves and dreams and hopes and desires and any intelligible thing at all exists, shows you that there is a metaphysical layer to reality, and it's more fundamental than the physical layer.
Wow, the Gish Gallop is strong with this one. I'm not even mad.
I'm not even mad. That's amazing.
Recall that Christopher was emphasizing the totalitarian dictatorship of meek and mild Jesus.
These are strongly coercive and implicitly authoritarian or even totalitarian statements.
This is effectively his conclusion, and to support it, he gave solid examples of authoritarian and totalitarian statements issued by Jesus. Jesus said that he comes bringing a sword, not peace. He said that if you don't dance to his tune, you'll be forever forsaken. And he said that to follow him, you must abandon your family and friends. He alone must be your light. And Michael has responded to this by not responding at all.
And he says it's a supernatural dictatorship. And this gets back to something he said in the previous video too. He says, can you imagine how insane it would be that the laws of nature could be suspended in the course of miracles?
It doesn't get back to his point on miracles though, does it, Michael? Christopher is making the point that Christianity is a divine North Korea, a totalitarian dictatorship. And rather than simply acknowledging this, Michael has changed the subject to miracle claims, to epistemology, and has then spewed presuppositional hogwash.
The fact that we can speak, the fact that we're communicating ideas at all, which I can't touch, I can't smell them, I can't see them, but nevertheless they exist.
Now that, my fellow apes, is weak sauce.
Weak sauce.
Thus, we don't need to entertain Michael's presuppositional nonsense. It's simply not relevant to Christopher's points. But I will say 2 things. First, even if it were the case, like Michael insisted, that all things natural are predicated on the supernatural, this would still leave Michael holding an empty sack.
I'll give you all the miracles and you'll still be left exactly where you are now, holding an empty sack.
Christopher's point of Christianity being a totalitarian dictatorship remains unaddressed. Whether naturalism or supernaturalism is true, his point stands unscathed. Second, leaping from the observation that there are some things that we can't touch or see to the conclusion that the supernatural must exist is a non sequitur. The conclusion doesn't follow from the premises. So that means that so far, Michael is 2 for 2 on the non sequitur fallacies. He committed this fallacy in response to the first clip he reviewed of Christopher, and now he's done it again.
Really shallow stuff. Fit for a 13-year-old. Next one.
Well done, Michael. You're really showing us what a big boy brain you have. Daddy Shapiro must be incredibly proud.
The actual what? What?
Well, that about wraps this one up. Throughout this video, and indeed series, you've seen a few assets from my card game Debunked, which you can check out by clicking the link below. If you get your hands on a copy, you'll even be able to hit slap your friends.
Not a very gentle or pacific remark.